Hello, everyone. I'm Marlene Foster with the Empower the Vision, and wanted to tell you that I'm really excited today because I have two extraordinary guests with me today. And one thing you will see that these team panels will be actually coming together, and we will be coming together to talk to you about the pandemic, which you can relate to. A lot of you out there, you'll be thinking about what it was like prior to the pandemic, your transformation, and what is it that you're doing today. And that's what you're going to hear, three different types of stories and different accounts as to what occurred at that time. You'll be hearing from Aneesa, you'll hear from Shaheda, and they will tell you again prior to the transformation period and where they are today. And as a lot of you know, I'm actually authoring a book right now. So this is what I will be adding to the discussion today. I'll be talking about my book, and we'll be discussing the pandemic with the employee and leadership. We're going to look at roles as well as mental health. So I'd like to start off first by introducing again Aneesa, and I would love for you to give us just a little bit of a background view. Tell us about your family and about your personal view about you.
Thank you so much, firstly, for having me. I feel really honored to be a part of this conversation. It's going to be an intriguing dialogue, and I can't wait to hear everyone's inputs. A little bit about me. I call myself a coaching alchemist. I am a mom of three beautiful kids that are my teachers in so many ways on a daily basis. I get to learn about my great attributes and not so great attributes, but it's all about the learning, isn't it? And yesterday, my daughter had a milestone birthday. She's 13. I have a 16-year-old son, and I also have an 8-year-old son who is actually the boss baby in the house right now. So, yeah.
Wow, see that's great. Wonderful, wonderful. And just wanted to stop here right now. Shahida, just give us a brief an overview about you, your family.
Hi, Marlene, and
Hello,
thank
hello.
you so much for having me here. It's just such a wonderful space to be among such beautiful, strong women. So thank you for that. So I am originally from the UK. I moved to Zambia when I got married nearly 27 years ago. So it's been quite a while. So it's just me and my husband and a big fat cat in our house. And I have one sister who lives in Zambia. She lives in the capital. And we have a very large extended family on my husband's side as well as my side, but around us here where I stay, very large Daya family. Um, I am a personal coach and a business coach, but I like to help people who are experiencing anxiety to overcome that anxiety. But I'm also working in a hospital, supporting the administration of the hospital, taking the hospital hopefully to the next level.
Wonderful, thank you. And just to give you just a slight little overview about me. Okay, I have one daughter and I have a granddaughter, who's always with me. I'm serious. I feel like each time I look up, I say, "Do you ever go home?" She is always with me, and I don't complain, guys, because you have how it is when you become when it's empty nesters. You start to kind of because I'm not married, so this it's just me and the work that I'm doing, and then I'm writing the book, and then she's there with me as well. And what I do is I empower uh, businesses to increase growth and visibility. And how do I do that? By actually showing them teaching them how they can actually protect family, customers, community, employees, and retirement. And today I'll be talking with these two beautiful ladies today, talking about the leadership employee relationship. So we'll be talking about that today. And I want to just get started with Aneesa. And just Aneesa, I want to start off by asking you. I know, and we're going to start off again previously, but I know, I love your story because you can show us both sides of the coin today. Because she was first as an employee, and now she's on the leadership, portion within her career. So, what can you tell us, just starting off from the start, prior to the pandemic? Can you kind of give us how you moved on from the beginning to the middle, and then to where you are today?
Sure, sure. Wow, it's a loaded question because there's so much to it, but I'm going to try and be succinct around it. Most of my career I actually was in the commercial space, so business development and sales, and I worked in a vast amount of industries that I've been privileged to work within: financial services, telecommunications. And when I was in financial services, I had the privilege of being exposed to a whole host of other retail industries within that. And then I moved on into the employee recognition and reward space. And I was passionately inspired when I got to that environment, because it was, how do we recognize people? How do we acknowledge them? How do we get them to take inspired action and be part of the movement of the organization, to live and embody the values and be excited to go deliver on the mission of the organization? So this organization, I was also still in the commercial space, and I was there just on 18 months. And with the pandemic that hit us, it was first a part of, okay, well, we're going to reduce your income, for a period of time, to try not and lay off any workers. We were in agreement with that. We thought, okay, that's fair. At least we still get our employment. The next thing that transpired was there was a conversation and a buzz in the corridors, and it was all about, there's possible, what we call in Cape Town, South Africa, retrenchment. It's a layoff from work, and part of a few individuals would then get included in this process, but it was all corridor conversation, and immediately I felt this dis-ease, but not from a place of fear. I was like, sure, this is happening. I approached the managing director of the division I worked in, and I said, I basically said, um, how is this process going to unfold? This is okay. It's normal. It's work. It's the lay of the land. And if I am meant to be part of this process, just tell me. I can deal with it. And in any event, I became part of that process, which I was fine with, up until there was a complete dissonance of how they dealt with the process. Because two of the individuals, myself and a colleague, had to reapply for our opportunity to stay in our position. And the way that unfolded was it was in an unfair way that they conducted the process. I think that they had already decided that they would like this individual to be employed, and they were kind of finding whatever possible way to appease me that they were following process. And I had to realize in the interview process, I actually broke down and I sobbed profusely, because I knew instinctively in that interview process something wasn't right. My intuition guided me at that very moment. However, in the same vein, I was like, but I'm going to stay strong and continue throughout the process, sobbing or not. And what I realized in that moment was two things. It was a defining period in my life because, one, why was I triggered so badly? Because there was a misalignment of values. I loved this organization for what they represented. Our values were congruent. Their vision and mission of the organization was in alignment with me. And immediately, yeah, I'm sitting there, and the way the interview process to reapply for my position was completely incongruent with the values. So I felt that my truth was being triggered in a very negative light. But I also realized in that moment, what were the things that were sitting in my space that I needed to deal with? Because this was one of those dark night of the soul experiences. Now, let me just mention this. I was the primary breadwinner of my family. At the time, I was still married. I'm now consciously uncoupled for about almost 2 years since then. That layoff was also a catalyst for me to look deeply within and say, what was my projections in that moment? Why did I show up so triggered? What was the adaptation in that moment that I had assumed with that experience? And what I quickly realized is that I too had quite a bit of my own wounded trauma spaces to deal with, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy enough, not feeling like I belonged. And because this was a family organization with the CEO at the head of 40 years still being at the organization and the family tribes that existed within the business, it was family first, right? So already at the start of working there, you always knew it was family first. So when this process unfolded, it was like, okay, yes, I realize I don't belong. But those were my things to deal with as well. So I could quickly realize, what am I projecting? What do I need to own? And how is this in service to me when I take the leap after I leave there? And fast forward to today, I can proudly state that what that journey allowed me to embark on was my very own hero's journey, heeding the call to adventure, knowing that I had my own villains and demons and monsters and dragons to slay, not just the outside world, not just the employer at that moment. And that unless I heeded that call and not refused it, I was never going to remain in my truth within my values, being purposefully aligned. And now, today, I have stepped into purpose. I'm fully aligned with understanding what it is to show up consciously for others who I coach or whom I consult with, or organizations I support in whichever shape or form in designing solutions or strategic intents, whether it's for their customers or employees. So, fast forward, I am employed, self-employed, independently so, and living in alignment with my values and my why, my purpose. So that experience, albeit it might have been perceived to be negative because there was this disconnect of teamwork. Teamwork was non-existent at that moment. It was a survival for the fittest, but it served me. Does that answer the question? It was a
But,
low.
at least, what it sounds like you just what you're saying here. I'm listening to you, and I don't know what Shaheda was hearing, but I'm hearing you say that all of you, who they were, as you said, they were re-interviewing to decide. It's almost as if they were looking to make you feel downtrodden, to make you feel that you were unworthy to even be a part of the organization. It looks as if they were looking to try to pull out who they wanted to get. I'm sorry, to terminate. That's what it sounded like from what you just said. It's as if they were listening. She said, because it looks like they were. They were trying to fine tune. Okay, we'll keep her, we'll keep him, and this is what we're gonna do with that. And if sometimes family owned business, I'm not saying all of them are this way, but maybe they saw you as too powerful. You know how some people can just they're strong and they feel a little threat there. And so I just picked up that you now. How do you feel they could have been more protective or shown what type of protection you think they should have shown for employees? Protection.
More compassion, more empathy, understanding that what this does is it doesn't just impact one individual, it impacts an entire household. What does this mean for that individual? How can they best serve that individual throughout this process? Could they support the person or the employees going through that process with opportunities that they could identify and refer to? Or could they redirect that individual somewhere else within the organization and really hone in on what are the core strengths and capabilities that might have added value in possible other areas to drive retention and succession planning within that organization? Because to rehire is expensive. And why not leverage the talent that is already in the organization and look at how you could redistribute that skill set and empower them to almost be an entrepreneur within that organization, so that
Mhm.
that entrepreneur sees that business as their own and say, well, if this was my business, how might I show up differently in support of cutting cost because of this pandemic? So it's not personal, it's business. But if they could have been more empathetic, compassionate, and engage people to say, what are your thoughts on how we could collaborate and work through this? But there wasn't that. It was a
But
decided.
Aneesa, were they doing this for themselves? I heard you mention succession planning, and just any type of process where they were even trying to see what would they do if something happened to one of them. Did you see them actually have any type of plan in place where if one of them had become disabled, died, decided to leave, did you see anything that the family members were doing that would have secured their organization? Not just the employee portion of it, but the family themselves. Did you see anything? Anything going on?
So there were discussions around succession planning, and whilst a portion of that succession was not only family members, it was actually who in the team could potentially take on these roles. Ultimately, it still came back to whatever the leadership at the top was wanting to achieve. That would be the final say. So there was a feeling of autonomy, but when it had to be put into practice, autonomy wasn't existent. It was a
Mhm.
facade that there was autonomy within each of the functional heads or areas. And people started to work in silos, and it was a protective environment. So when you're working in silos, our brain is designed to be in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? So you would find different elements of people fighting, or they feel like they need to flee. And the culture, the heaviness that existed within the culture, it was quite evident because the values, as beautiful as they are, and as audacious and amazing as this vision and mission is of the organization, I call it the wow factor because those were only words on walls. It was not embodied in the behaviors and the execution of how leaders were showing up for their people. So people were afraid to speak up and be in their truth for fear of, would I be part of this process? So let me rather not speak truth right now. So that
Mhm.
it's an insane dynamic to work alongside with.
Wow. And say, look at where we are today. And I want to ask you, Shaheda, you're listening to Aneesa speak about all of the different challenges that took place. I just wanted you to kind of give us pretty much an overview of what you do. And also, I totally want to ask you about the mental exercise. Is that mental exercise? If I have the name right, that we talked about previously that you use? Is it mental exercise? I couldn't quite remember what the terminology was, but anyway, just tell you an overview of what you do, and also talk about what you heard going on in Aneesa's organization.
Oh, I think I've known Anissa for some time, and Anissa has told me about this experience a number of times. But what's lovely is that, of course, the experience itself wasn't lovely, but I can pick up, and then I think Anissa, every time she speaks about it as well, especially when it's like an open, when you're free to talk about it and talk about the experiences. I'm sure that there's something that's possibly coming off at Anissa, something new that she may not have realized on the prior discussions, but it is definitely part of the hero's journey. Unfortunately, the growth within us comes at the times when we are squeezed or challenged the most. And if we didn't have those experiences, we're not going to actually realize the resilience and the strength within us. We wouldn't know that it's there, but it's like a diamond being crushed under gravity, under pressure. That's when the diamonds occur. But it's only in those moments I feel that we can honestly know how much we can be pushed, how much we can be stretched. We can understand our values and our ethics, what makes us uncomfortable, what doesn't sit right with us. And in those moments, that's when you can really understand our truth. And I think that is, it's not nice to go through the experiences, but on the flip side, that's what we come out, that's what we come away with from these experiences. And we're all going on our own hero's journey. And fear is also one of the biggest things that people can always experience. And fear comes up in various forms. It could be fear of somebody, or fear of an unknown, or fear of uncharted territory. If you've had to, if you have a calling within that you've never been on that territory before, and you know beyond it because it's new to you. You haven't, you don't know what it's going to be like. But at the end of the day, fear can teach us a lot about ourselves. And once we decide to embrace that fear and go on with our calling, regardless of how much fear there is, or what reactions it brings up in us, or what it feels like, that's when we really can learn how strong and resilient and how much courage we really do have within us. And Aneesa, I can, some of the things that she's explained, talked about in this experience, I can pick up. I'm sure a lot of people who hear this will realize and recall that, yes, I've experienced something like that. Yes, I understand that reaction and why Aneesa reacted that way in that sense. But these are the little golden nuggets that can come up. These are the golden nuggets also. And it takes a lot of courage also. You've got to pull that courage from somewhere within when you have that kind of an experience. When you've got a panel of 5 people in front of you and you're being re-interviewed for other plans or whatever you want to call it. You've got to pull that courage from somewhere. Definitely. And it is a very courageous story.
You know what? When I first actually did a spotlight with you, you remember back in 2021, and what I found to be really exciting about your story was when you talked to me. You said, "Marlene, I've experienced anxiety myself," and so I wanted to ask you if you could just share with us today about your experience and how you overcame anxiety during that period.
Yeah. Thank you for asking me about it again, because I think it's been a while since I've spoken about the whole experience. And for me, also, every time I speak about it, it brings up something new. But one of the things I have realized is that then when I was a little uncomfortable talking about it, but now it's like, let's talk about it. It's great. It's fine talking about depression and what I learned and what I experienced. And I look at what happened to me as like a gift, because if that didn't happen to me, okay, let me explain now what happened. So I had anxiety for some time, but I think it was the year 2014. So this was way before the pandemic. I suddenly was hit with a big dose of anxiety and depression. When I look back, I think the anxiety was already there in the background, slowly building momentum. So in the background, slowly building momentum. And when I think back, and I think, yeah, I realize and I remember actually feeling that I'm mentally slipping. I actually remember telling myself I'm slipping, and it felt like I was in the bottom of a pit and I was trying to climb out, and the sides of the pit were so slippery, I couldn't get a grip to climb out. That's mentally exactly how it felt. And about a few weeks after that, the depression hit very, very strong. I remember crying for no reason at all. Couldn't even recall what I was crying for. The anxiety, when it was at its peak, it made me feel very disconnected from myself. It was actually depression. Feeling disconnected from myself, not even knowing myself, crying and feeling very, very sad, literally having like a gray cloud above my head. You couldn't even see the joy in the day. The sun would be shining, but you couldn't see it. The birds would be singing, but you can't hear them. It doesn't really do anything for you. And where I stay in Zambia, we don't really have. Zambia is still a developing country, so we didn't really have a how can I say a psychologist that I could go and see. So I had to travel to Johannesburg in South Africa with my husband. And when I saw a psychologist, that lady got the ball rolling. So I had a number of sessions of therapy with her. But what I realized, and maybe this is because of where I'm staying in Zambia as well, I realized that I had to do the bulk of the work myself. That it was, at the end of the day, the calling was to find myself, find my truth, relearn who I am, find where this anxiety was coming from, and all these questions that were coming up, and any other questions that were coming up along the way, they needed answers for me to come back and find my truth. And it was a process. I had to research it myself. I journaled every day. Journaling became my go-to thing whenever I needed to process something. And I still journal today. Journaling worked for me particularly really well because I look at it as a self-therapeutic method to find answers within, especially when there's something on our minds troubling us. But I looked at everything. I looked at what vitamins do I take? How's my nutrition? How can exercise help me? And finding my truth in relation to various things, where I am in my life, what's my purpose, what are my values, how are my relations with my loved ones, what's my relationship with my husband, what do I want from that relationship, how can I make the most out of the life where I am, regardless of whatever setbacks there are. I live in quite a small town in the eastern province in Zambia, so it's not a big city like Lusaka or Joburg or Cape Town. But look, I'm happy to say, thank goodness for the internet, and that has like really. I found ways to set myself free, I think, and look at the setbacks and make life your own. Find your truth and find what makes you happy, and not be scared to look for those answers. Not be scared to be held back. Don't held back. Don't allow anybody to hold you back. Don't be scared of anyone. Have no fear. Have no fear, and face those fears. And it's a kind of liberation, because unfortunately, once you've done that journey and you come out the other side and you're on the other side of the spectrum and you're in the sunshine, you're out of that dark tunnel. And unfortunately, when you're having conversations with different people, you can pick up fear and holding yourself back and maybe anxiety. And all I would love to say, I think, on this platform is, to anybody who is listening, don't let fear hold you back. Find what it is that you want to do. Find what makes you happy. Yeah, I think fear can be the biggest thing that can hold us back. But learn to love yourself and be in your truth and go out with your heart in your sleeve, I think. Yeah. So I hope that summed it up for you, Valerie. And if there's anything that I've missed.
You know what? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm sitting here right now and I'm listening to the two of you. And when I look back at myself, because I don't have, I had maybe one or two employees, at one point. But what I wanted to talk about is solopreneurs. And solopreneurs are what? Solo, correct? How can a solopreneur protect themselves? And I was sitting here then just listening to the two of you, look at, because even from that point of view, and I'll talk about employees as well, but the solopreneur point of view is so lonely, because there you are, and there are a lot of solopreneurs out there right now. And how do they protect themselves? How do they create a succession plan, and it's only them? It's only you and your fingers and toes. So how you gonna create a succession plan? How you protect yourself? I'm gonna tell you again what happened to me though. I came down with pneumonia. I was writing a case in my office, And one of the vendors came by. Thank goodness that she did, because I was leaned over and I was sweating and just, I mean, the paperwork was wet. And the customer was like, I want to help you, but I don't want to touch you. So I understood how she felt because I was really sick. So she said, "Look, Marlene." She walked in. She said, "You get up, go sit on the, go lay down on the couch or whatever you need to do." She said, "And I'll take you home, and I'll go ahead and wrap this up." So she took care of everything for me. I was very fortunate for that. So she took me home, and I did. I had a real serious case of it with a 3-year-old daughter. So my mom said, "You guys are gonna come over here," and she had to fight with my daughter every day to keep her out of the bedroom. She kept trying to climb on the bed with me. She would go under the bed and try to hide, so my mother wouldn't know where she was, so she could. And I would say, "Mom, she's in here. Come get her," because I didn't want her to become ill. But solopreneurs, you have got to find ways to protect yourself. And that means that getting into, for instance, I have a membership that I actually invite solopreneurs and businesses to become a part of, because I'm writing a book and I'm inviting them to actually come on board for collaboration purposes, to write a book if they want to. And like Shaheda was saying, writing can help you to pull a lot of the stress out. Stress comes out as I'm writing my book. And sometimes I have to go back and edit a few things because I'm being too honest about certain people, certain individuals. So I'll go back and I'll edit to make sure I'm staying on point. So I'll do that. But that's what I wanted to share with you in terms on the solopreneur end, in terms of protection. During the pandemic, prior to it and during, you still most people actually, after the pandemic occurred, it came better for them because they got to create relationships, even if they were global. They are now being able to talk to people online, get to know individuals. I've even seen some of them travel to actually to make acquaintances face to face with some of the people that they've met. So that's what I'm seeing with some of the solopreneurs. But I wanted to say with employees, I was listening to Aneesa talk about that. I, for 20 something years, guys, have worked with businesses, and I've taught them about succession planning. And I said, look, and succession planning is not going to be perfect, because you can have what, Aneesa? Some things still won't go right, will they? Things will go wrong. You're gonna have some things will go right, and some things just will not go. It's not going to be a perfection. There won't be perfection there. So I told them, I said, now you got to still put something in place. Like you got a car. Most of us keep spare tires in the trunk, right? Why do we keep spare tires in the trunk? In the event of what? A flood. You keep health insurance on you and in your family. Why? So that if your child becomes sick, your husband becomes sick, you become sick, you're ready, right, to see a doctor. You don't have to try to think, okay, what now? What now? You already know because you've anticipated the outcome. You already know, but the outcome will be there. And it's just several other ways that we anticipate, right? We do it all the time. We anticipate. All I'm saying is that businesses need to anticipate more for employees. We'll talk about employees today. Anticipate their mental stamina. Put some kind of program in place. You know what I'm saying? Shaheda, something in place that will help with mental stamina, and with the strong professionals like Aneesa, you need to have some type of training that's continuous for someone like her, so that eventually she can end up in a leadership role. I don't care if it is a family-owned business. You got to keep that business strong. You can still run a business, Aneesa, because I've shown you can run it, a family business, keep it strong, but still you can keep the employees climbing up the ladder, and you're keeping them on board because the family has made them feel, they embrace and make them feel wanted. Like you said, they feel as if we are a part of the family. We're a part of it. And I'm listening to the two of you, and that's what I've heard. I wanted to just end with this. How many of you heard of? I know you've heard of Breyers ice cream, right? Breyers ice cream. Have you heard of Breyers? Where there was a company years ago called Dryers. Can you believe it? Breyers and Dreyfus. But Dreyfus, was actually a cook aboard a ship. And aboard the ship, he was served this soft serve type of dessert. And and the crew loved it. And he said, "You have got to open up a business and sell this." He said, nobody enjoys this except you guys. He said, you need to start your own business. And so eventually he did. So he invited who? His son to join the business with him. So he retired, and his son then takes the helm. He's now in the front of it. He now has management in place. And see, Aneesa, he didn't. There was no other family members, so he had to go and get some other people who were non-family to help him run the business. So eventually, when it was time for him to retire, he then decided to sell the business, and he did. He sold it to two gentlemen. If you look at Dryer's ice cream, you'll see these two gentlemen that bought it. They bought it for under the price. It should have been sold for more than what, because it was really worth a lot. But I think they sold it for maybe 2 million, 3 million, something like that. So but this is where it all took off. Now, Aneesa, you would have loved being with this company. What they did was this: they put together a charter. The employees were aboard the charter. That meant that if anything went wrong in the business, that the leadership would come, and they would not only would they just they would inform the employees what was happening. They had to come and see you face to face. You'd love that, wouldn't you? They came to every location that there was, and they came face to face with you and said, this is the issue, and we need to collaborate. It was very inclusive at that point. This was years ago. Inclusive. They wanted to hear the employees' voices. So and anyway, once they sold it to them, and they were out creating different types of sorbets, and they were also Ben and Jerry's. They even transported ice cream for them for a while. Ben and Jerry's little small ice cream shop. But anyway, what finally ended up happening is they started to maybe lose on the sorbet. It wasn't really selling well. So they then turned around and decided, okay, then also one of the VPs came up with a brain tumor. Unexpected, right? They had no one to step into his shoes. Succession planning, right, Aneesa? And there was no succession plan in place. So when he became ill with the brain tumor, that was then an issue. And again, we gotta learn how to protect our businesses. So what they did was they came back to each of the different branches, sat down with all of these employees, and they said to them, "We're sorry, guys, but it's a chance that we may have to lay some of you off." How many businesses do that? We may have to lay some of you off. Do you want for somebody to tell you the truth, be honest with you, be forthright, and even though they're saying, "I need your help," we don't know if we're going to have to let anybody go or not, but it's a possibility we might have to. And so, and I don't know if they ended up having to let any of them go or not, but I know that they came and they told them the truth. But guess who owns the company today? They finally sold the company to Nestle's. Nestle's owns the company, guys. Nestle's chocolate. And believe me, and I think they really got a lot of money out from Nestle's. You know that, right? Because Nestle's could afford to do that. But I'm just saying that today, teaming, when you look at teams within businesses, just like Aneesa was talking to us about, you got to team, and leadership has to be more of a service leadership, where they are serving, as she told me previously. We talked about this before we came on board, serving the employees, serving their needs. Because if somebody's serving my need, I will work. If you said, "Marlene, how would you feel about working maybe to midnight tonight?" I will stay and work with you. I will stay and do it. I would do it. Why? Because I feel that you care about me, because you're doing what? You're serving me. And now I'm going to do what for you? Serve you.
Yeah. Can I just say, Marlene, some of the things that you're telling me, they really resonate, especially for me in my current employment. I'm working with a hospital that's growing very, very fast. and we really want to increase our services for the community, bring better services and a wider span of services. But this is something that what you were saying about employees and lifting them, investing in them, and giving them encouragement. And you find that the more that they are uplifted, the more they'll bring back to the company. And I see this every day. I see every day. For example, we have a laboratory. We have the HOD of the laboratory. He's such a inspiration to me. He's so passionate about his lab and about the people, his team. And I asked him to find somebody that could help him and service the machinery that he has, and the machines that he has and the equipment that he has in his own lab. And he just went another 10 steps ahead. And it's exactly what you were describing just now: investing in them, uplifting our employees, allowing them to understand their value when they can't see it, showing them, encouraging them. And they just continue to bring back more to the company. And it's so lovely to see. And at the same time, you're encouraging their growth, their confidence and their self-esteem is growing. They learn about their own abilities, when they probably didn't know how far they could go. And it's so lovely to see. And I'm seeing this every day right now. And it's so lovely to see.
And see that's beautiful. And just think, if that had been occurring with Aneesa when she was facing what she was going through, she wouldn't sound the way she sounds today because of
Yeah.
what was faced. She wouldn't be. She wouldn't be fake. She wouldn't have. But I wanted to just tell you guys that I know I said and then from the start with me, yes, I stayed on the road traveling. Prior to the pandemic, I was a traveler. I flew planes. I was driving cars. You know what, honey, if I had to hitchhike, I probably would have hitchhiked, but I didn't do that. But I'm saying it. But I was all over, just mainly all over the United States, all different states. And when I would travel, again, that's how I saw my clientele. So so that's what I was doing prior to, and then when the pandemic hit, transformation occurred. I couldn't do the travel anymore. Why? People were afraid, weren't they? They were afraid. They were afraid of me then. No, you can't come to my house. I said no. And so I had to sit tight, sit still, and that was something that I had to become. Now, remote is something I've done pretty much all of my career. I've always worked in the field. I've always been a person like that. So I've always worked remote, but never just around the clock sitting still inside the house. The walls look like they would just be closing in on me. That's how I feel. I have to get out and go. And so the transformation happened to me with the spotlight. And as I saw, and I'm communicating, I'm writing in comments, I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm on Facebook, but I really love LinkedIn. And so there I am writing. And so I thought, a lot of these people are struggling to really get to know other individuals to grow their businesses. So I'm thinking, wouldn't it be great if maybe I've never interviewed before, but I've done public speaking before, but I had never done a one-on-one or 3-on-3 or 10-on-10. I had just never done that before. So I decided I would do that to increase visibility. So that's what I did. And it also helped to protect their businesses, because by protecting the business they had in place, and then adding new people to the business. So I did that, increasing visibility, and growth. And so I'm still doing it today. And then today, what I'm doing is I'm also working with authors. I work with people who want to write books, because a lot of people right now are looking to read. They're sitting at home. Why not write a book? And the great thing about writing is co-authoring. If you take co-authoring and you actually break it down into, I've seen them with 20 different people, on board. That's a lot of stories in there. But anyway, I'm just saying co-authoring is a real good way to actually get your name out there in writing, period. So if you want to learn more about that, reach out, talk to me, and you can come on board and see what I'm doing in a membership that I have that's in place. It's a membership where we are we write together. We're writing together. We are reinforcing one another. We're a benefit to each other. So I just wanted to put that out on the table as well. And I wanted to, and my guest today, I'm excited with the stories and everything they've told us. I wanted to ask, Aneesa, if you wouldn't mind just giving us an overview again of what you've discussed, just some of the high points, and that you would like to share, with us.
Well, as you can see, it's dark behind me. So for those that might wonder what on earth is going on, South Africa has blackouts, rolling blackouts, but we have to persevere. So let's speak about this blackout and having a layoff, and that's part of life. There's always this too shall pass. There's an impermanence. And it's how we show up knowing that nothing is there to remain indefinitely so. There's always going to be the ebb and flows of life. And if we can cultivate and build resilience in ourselves, we then help ourselves to lead more effectively. And we go from, and you talk about writing a book, I'm also writing a memoir about my life. And it is about from survival to self-love to self-leadership. Because if we don't connect to ourselves, hence my business name is craft coaching. You've got to hone your craft, right? So honing your craft is about being connected. And what the acronym actually represents is connected relationships amplifies future transformation. If we cannot be connected to ourselves, and everything we do is underpinned by relationships, and everything in our lives, and if everything the universe does with every interaction with any individual or life-defining experience, it's a mirror being held back up for us. And what it is that we're going to take from that mirror is how do we show up? Because sometimes our teachers teach us how not to be. The leaders that are perceivedly leaders teach us how not to lead. In fact, they are managing people as if they're a commodity. So it's up to us to show up differently and say, how do we drive connected relationships, help people stay informed, stay like they feel like they belong and they're contributing to something bigger than themselves, because then they will want to show up. As you said, you want to show up in every aspect, but more importantly, if you allow people to be curious, there's no such thing as fail. As our coach trainer taught us, fail is for all I learn. So what are the lessons? What are those powerful lessons that we can take in the pursuit of pain to make it more purposeful? Because everything that is painful or perceived to be is a portal. And Shaheda knows me. I love acronyms, and I say we all have wow factors. And there are many wows. There is the first one that ever came to me was we are warriors overcoming our wounds. And those wounds is what are the catalyst for us to step up into alignment, to become the truest, most authentic expression of who we are. And if something's not right, we need to become advocates to say it's not right. And we need to speak up with conviction. And then there's wonderment in observing our wounds. And that, again, is don't be victim. Don't stay in a victim to me consciousness. This is not happening to you. It's happening for you in your favor. How do you leverage that? Because it's asking of us to say, we need to be leading by example. No matter how we feel we've been wronged, we've got to be in gratitude for those that has been in service to us to say, how do we not lead? And we're not judgment. If we're passing judgment, we in ego ourselves. And if we can learn to lead with empathy and compassion and forget about the label of leadership, because we're all leaders in our right, and leave these constructs, I, me, us, and them. We are one. We are one in every way. No one is above us. No one is below us. that would drive a different dialogue and a different culture and a different society and different norms.
Aneesa, let me ask you this. Give your, if you will, and I'll have it attached also to the to the video. But give us a way for the audience to reach you. How can they reach you?
How can they reach me? They can certainly reach me via LinkedIn. I have a website. It's just my name and surname.com. That will give you an overview of all the topics that I am passionately inspired by to consciously, be part of a movement. And I call myself a coaching alchemist, not for any particular reason other than I believe wholeheartedly that we can turn lead to gold, that everyone has a purpose and everyone can step into that purpose.
I like that term, "led to go." I gotta remember that. That's great. That's great. Now, let me ask you, now, Shaheda, just give us if you don't mind, succinctly give us an overview of what you like for the audience to take home with them today. What would you like to say? And then how they can reach out to you as well.
Myself, Money.
Yes.
Okay. So anyone can reach out to me on my profile, through my profile. The messages will pop up straight away. I think contact information is also on my profile. I think my email address is there for anybody who wants to email me. I just want to touch on something that Aneesa said earlier when she was talking about her story. And unfortunately, the bad experience that Aneesa had with their employer. And this is for both employers and employees. What's wonderful about Aneesa's situation is that she's able to flip things around, and she used that experience as a catalyst. And look at where she is now. Look at Aneesa is rocking what she wants to do. She is certainly in her truth. Now, if I want to take it a step further and just touch on mental health a little bit, in respect of both employers and employees. So the reason I wanted to touch on mental health is to put a question out to people, anybody listening, and ask the question: what are the costs for you if your mental health could be better and your mental health is not worsening? What are the costs for you as an employer? So if you're an employer, you're a place in leadership, and you know that your mental health could be better. You would like to work on it to get into a better positive space. So what are the costs for you if you stay in that space? And it could be things like wearing a mask, not being completely in your strength, etc., things like that as a leader. And as an employee, I'd also say the same thing. What are the costs for you? What are the consequences of avoiding getting into a better space? This goes for both employers and employees, whether if they are not in a great mental space. But when you are in a great mental space and you have that resilience, and what could you do if you are armed and healed and in your truth and facing your fears and going with your navigating towards your purpose, to what your true purpose is? And that is something that I really want to leave behind for the people who are listening. What are the costs?
Wonderful. Yeah, excellent. You see, I just feel honored being here today with these two ladies. I just want to say that, everybody. And again, my book that'll be coming out will be published in October, and you'll be hearing me speak about it. Here as I come on with other speakers who will be coming on board with me. I'll be talking to you about more topics that I inside of the book. And right now we're talking about, employees. But I wanted to actually challenge you today to do, if you've got an employee, or if you don't have one, if you've got an employee, why don't you write, because I've had business to write testimonials for employees. And if you say, well, Marlene, I've never done that before. How would I do it? That reach out. I'll give you a template of some type. I'll show you how to do it. But write something showing your employees that they're special. And you could do something, I don't know, if you want to do monthly or bi-monthly or quarterly, but put something on the table so that you can get them excited, some excitement generated, and incentivize them to want to do better, do more, because what they do for the company, it's going to also impact the leadership, the owner. It's going to impact you. So write a testimonial for your employees. If you don't have an employee, go to your favorite restaurant or a business that you enjoy, actually spending money at, and watch those employees that you really enjoy spending time with. Write a testimonial on their behalf. Write it for them, and let the owner see it. Come on, if you want something, you got to be like, even like Aneesa said, you got to give it. If you want it, give it. And I'm saying to you today, write testimonials for employees. Write testimonial for the employees at a business that you've gone to, that you enjoy. Write a testimonial for them. And also I wanted to tell you that within, like we already know about customers, and actually employees, in my opinion, are customers. Just think about it, because if it were not for the employees, would we even have customers? Because the customers know who are employees. That's so. I just wanted to tell you that again, if you like to reach me again, I'm on LinkedIn as well under Marlene Foster, and I will be coming again weekly. And I will have, and see, Shaheda was a person that I've already spotlighted before, and a newcomer is Aneesa, and we're so happy to have you here with us. Thank you so much, Aneesa. I heard some really grand things about you. I'm being honest, over the past 24 hours, I went to, wow. That's when I told you. I said, am I on board with celebrities? Because people really spoke so highly, of you and Shaheda. And I wanted to just thank you again, for being here, with me, today. And again, if you looking to reach, I wanted to just say this. I didn't get a chance to speak with you and Shaheda about this, but I was wondering if you would be interested in the three of us doing some type of a challenge together, or something we could invite anybody who does the testimonial. Do the testimonials, guys, and send those my way. They're real easy to do. And then send it, and then what we'll do, we're going to talk about something that we can do to give you even more of a benefit, and you'll get to know these ladies. I know that Shaheda she just stepped out on us, but we're okay. But we're going to, what do you think of that, about doing that, Aneesa, that we could actually, this testimonials, those who send the testimonials in for either employee or an employee of a business somebody that they're doing business with, and we will we'll have some kind of a challenge or something where you can learn even more strategies from us, even more strategies. What do you think?
Absolutely love it, and I'm on board with it. I also want to add, how about giving yourself a testimonial? Because we're always thinking about
Wow,
sending that
yes.
to
I
everyone else.
agree, yes.
How might we acknowledge and recognize ourselves for stepping into courage, to stepping into truth, for allowing, embracing parts of ourselves that are those shadow sides that we might not have liked, but how it served us to step into purpose as well. So maybe it's also high time that instead of, I love that we need to recognize others and endorse others, but when is the time that we endorse ourselves and advocate for ourselves? Because if you cannot lead yourself and advocate for yourself, how are you going to do that intentionally for others?
I tell you what, do both, guys. Do both, because there's some employees out here. It's like a niece you just shared. Some of them are not getting recognized at all. And I see it. I see it when I walk in, and I see that the kind souls, the ones that I see when I'm doing business, and I'm looking at them and say, they sure are. It's a kind soul right there. And they're doing business, and they're trying to be helpful towards you. And you look at them and say, wow. And then somebody, employer or something, walks up and showing them they're very disrespectful towards them, and that bothers me. So that's why I already know where I'm going to do it too, guys. So when you reach out to me, I will show you what I've done also. So I will do what Aneesa said. I'll do something for myself, and I'm going to also reach out
Yes.
and do it for a business. But wanted to just tell all of you that it was truly a pleasure today having on board with us, because again, team, and as you already know, teamwork win. We're winners, right, Aneesa? When you are a
Teamwork
team.
makes the dream work.
Exactly. Exactly. So thank you so very much today, and looking forward to seeing you again, next week when I come on board again, and it'll be another panel discussion with the team. Thank you. Have a marvelous day. Thank you.
Thank you.